Yokwe, aloha. My name is Patricia Naisara, and welcome to the Pacific Way. It is important more than ever to educate our children and youth on the impacts of climate change. Now, a European Union-funded project is mainstreaming climate change adaptation and sustainable energy in tertiary curricula in 14 Pacific Island countries and Timor-Leste. We see how the project supports the development of national qualifications in resilience levels 1 to 4 and address a training gap that existed at undergraduate level in Fiji.
Sota vate kana bule da me bike mundo, vata no ku bike tai wana tambani bula, dona tamani visa uliv. Kali wana no ku baka malamalek, wana bule mai da kito. Tali tak, ramaro tak talagana leoni koro, wana bule mai dak.
Climate change is being felt more frequently, with the impacts of natural disasters becoming more drastic. We're seeing more landslides, droughts, inundation, and sea level rise. And these impacts extend on to affect food security, communal living, economies, and more. Governments, agencies, and communities have been responding to climate change and its impacts in many ways. Some of the more tangible responses have been with the setup or upgrade of equipment and facilities to be able to deal with some of these climate-induced emergencies. There has also been a lot of training for first responders and communities around preparedness and resilience in dealing with disasters and the ongoing effects of climate change.
So addressing climate change and disaster resilience and mitigation in our region, of course, is one of the biggest challenges for us. And part of the work and the response to those efforts, of course, has been around education and training. This particular project, the PACTIVET project, has been about that. The design and the preparation of working with a cohort of our community to build their knowledge, to build their understanding around resilience, so that they can, of course, not only manage preparation better, but of course build that resource and capacity within themselves and within their communities.
Since 2014, a European Union-funded project has been working towards mainstreaming climate change adaptation and sustainable energy in tertiary curricula in 14 Pacific Island countries and Timor-Leste.
Climate change and energy security are major issues that are hindering development in the Pacific. So PACTIVET has addressed this through development of competency-based qualifications to enhance the technical expertise and to strengthen the capacity of our people in the Pacific to respond to the climate change and sustainable energy challenges.
This program, Resilience, has about 7 specific areas, like it has fisheries, coastal management, agriculture, water resources, tourism, forestry, etc.
It is an eye-opening program, and I learned so many things with regards to climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction. And as we move into the new era, there's a high expectation from those who go through this training.
Students that have been working in NGOs, most of them work in government, so they're working on the different sectors in resilience, climate change adaptation, disaster risk reduction. So we have a mixture of students from various sectors. That we also have students that are from the communities. So for Certificate 1, the training is mostly done by the national training centers. So for in Fiji, for example, we have the Ministry of Youth and Sports who are currently delivering the Certificate Level 1 course. And this training is mostly targeted towards communities.
Au sabuli da sa titei kau na batini udiwai me taruki na sisiningele na wai me kuni dombenu dina wai
Kito ni to tompuni wai tiko sar me vikau. Kito me rete kiran dor visa uliu balata ni to deme. Dem sa tu vada kita la kena simende me bakal lebutaki. Ando tako so tiko na tamata na toloni wai. Ata vakane kaukawa meron to tako so gina batini ra bakal tete tu me vikau. Na toloni boy na kor sambulu taki koran to tungai dake. Pa sambulu taki mai. Aki meredi kirin dona visau. Tanggen rodo mai bakal pinaka na wai.
This is a quite a new initiative, not only in the region but globally as well. So we have people from other parts of the global community talking to us about this initiative.
The 6.3 million euro project is being implemented by the Pacific Community, SPC, in partnership with the University of the South Pacific, USP.
The fight against climate change, the promotion of biodiversity, sustainable development, resilience, it has to be a global effort. That's the reason why it is in our own interest to empower all the people in the world, and certainly in the Pacific, you stand at the front line of climate change. So it makes a lot of sense to give you the capacity, because this is a fight, to educate and train and form the climate warriors of tomorrow, the biodiversity warriors of tomorrow, the resilience warriors of tomorrow. And even though it starts at a very early age, the formative years are when you get into tertiary education. So that's the rationale, that's where we come from. We want to promote the European Green Deal with everything which comes with it. We recognize that the Pacific is a key region in the world for that matter, and we want to make sure that people from this region of the world are equipped with the skills and competencies to play a significant role and to be the warriors of tomorrow in that big global fight.
So being exposed to new ways of thinking, particularly about resilience and climate change, is really, I think, helping our communities approach these problems quite differently, and to think about becoming much more adaptable in their responses, but of course being much more flexible. You know, we're incredibly grateful to all the partners and stakeholders that have been involved in this project. As I mentioned before, it is a global first, this kind of work. And we could not have delivered this program without, of course, the help of USP. But I particularly want to make mention of the Fiji Higher Education Commission, who really supported the development of those qualifications in a very, very unique way. And I want to pay tribute to them. And of course, I do recognise the European Union, who have funded this initiative, and in particular mention, of course, to GIZ, who have been accompanying us on some of the project implementation aspects of the program.
Eu babini bina ko berito na ko temena kabuli beteni sami ko tora da ke tak no korondal na mano sa leben sara kaki sa blita sa me daka.
You're watching The Pacific Way, bringing you stories that matter to Pacific people. The Pacific is made of many small atoll nations where fresh drinking water has been a scarcity. However, underground water tests are revealing very positive results. After years of research and field investigations, the Pacific Community's Geoscience Division has helped locate an abundance of fresh underground water, which promises a brighter future for the people of Tokelau.
Tokelau is one of the smallest and most remote nations in the world, consisting of 3 coral atolls in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. With an average population of just 1,200 residents, life on Tokelau is immersed in religion and traditional customs, with reliance on fish and coconut as a staple diet.
I'd say Tokelau is very unique, very small in population-wise. I think with our atoll, it's probably under 500 people. We don't have any tourists, and that's probably because we're very unknown. You probably just see that Tokelau on a map is just a dot. The people here are very religious. We have 3 different religions in Tokelau as a whole, but here in Ngā Tahu we're all, our religion here is LMS. very friendly, I'd like to say, very shy.
There is no airport in Tokelau, and the only way to get to the island is from Apia, Samoa by ship. The government-run vessel provides passenger and cargo services to and from Apia every 2 weeks, and the journey can take up to 36 hours each way. This also provides a time to prepare for the work ahead.
To go to Tokelau, you have to plan for the longest time to go to Tokelau because you have to travel by boat, and the community is a really unique cultural governance structure in Tokelau. Everything goes there. Not only like in most countries in the Pacific, you have to go through the foreign affairs and then into the country. In Tokelau, you have to go through also up to the elders of the islands to give you approval for you guys to come in. So it's a long process. You need a good time to prepare for a trip to Tokelau.
Tokelau is dependent on rainwater as its sole source of water, and most houses and buildings are fitted with a rainwater catchment and storage system. It has been a practice for years.
As we all know and as God's will would have it, we do not have rivers as other nations do. For example, like Samoa, our closest neighbor. However, as I remember, no one's life was at risk from thirst, because as you know, there was still water for drinking as well as plenty of coconuts on this island. Therefore, water is something that is essential not only for our sustenance, but also for the other daily activities as I had mentioned before. It is required for cooking. If there is no water, there would not be any of those things and all those would be on pause. Laundry would not be done. However, the majority of families here or within these households have at least 8 to 13 members living in them. And so if there is no water, those families would suffer from the lack of it, which also means that the message from that is clear. Water is a vital part of life for the Tokelauan people.
However, a prolonged drought in 2011 took a heavy toll on the people and the island's limited resources.
We had a drought here in 2011, months with no rain. And just the little water we had in our tanks, we were very careful with the water that we had. Some days we actually just had to go to the sea, shower, come back, and just a few cups of water just to wash all the salt water off. The drinking water we had in the tanks, you could actually tell that it wasn't fresh. We had to boil that. We actually had to go as far as getting coconuts from Samoa. So we were able to give our pigs food, because our coconut trees, there was nothing there. There was no coconuts on the coconut trees. Even the breadfruits was hardly there, and that was because there was no water, no rain. So it wasn't a good experience.
While short-term solutions were implemented through installation of tanks for increased water capacity, more was needed to ensure long-term sustainable water supply for the people of Tokelau. Through the Pacific Community's Strengthening Water Security of Vulnerable Island States program, and with funding support from MFAT, the Government of New Zealand, local authorities and communities in Tokelau were engaged to map out water security plans.
SPC has just completed a consultation on the villages where everyone were involved, as a stakeholder. Each stakeholders on Tokelau were involved in developing a water policy and sanitation for Tokelau. And this work has been, already been done by a consultant commissioned by Tokelau and SPC, and therefore it's in a draft now. And this piece of document will help Tokelau, track the relevant funding to improve water challenges in Tokelau.
In late 2019, SPC conducted surveys using ground-penetrating radar equipment to detect sources of fresh underground water in all 3 atolls in Tokelau. The result? Millions of liters of fresh underground water sources have been identified.
It's good news that we have underground water currently, you know, on all the 3 islands of Tokelau. On my island, where I come from, there is sign of fresh water, underground water. Comes to more than 90 million liters of underground fresh water. It's very comforting to know that there is water storage underneath our, the ground in Tokelau. And, with that piece of document, the water policy, then we can ask the funders to, to bring this water up to the surface whenever we need it in terms of drought and, for sanitation purposes. Yeah.
Under the program, in addition to development of the Water and Sanitation Policy and Action Plan, SPC also conducted field surveys and installed new rain gauges on all 3 atolls.
We managed to do 3 things in one trip. Our team went down to do groundwater assessment. We managed to install rain gauges. For about almost 20 years, Tokelau hasn't had a record of rainfall data. So they were so pleased to have us install rain gauges in each of the islands.
Work is now being undertaken by SPC and the government of Tokelau in identifying groundwater potential, and the next step is to explore ways of sustainably extracting the underground water.
Sustainably is the word. We don't want to bring all the water underneath the ground to the top, to the surface. Therefore, I think it's safer, much safer if we can store it where it is. And with that piece of document I was talking about, the water policy and sanitation policy, we can have funding, to bring up this water for sanitation use, and maybe in future for treatment, for drinking.
Water management and sanitation works are being conducted on the atolls with renewed hope amongst the people of Tokelau that their water problems would soon be a thing of the past.
Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. For more videos and news, check out the Pacific Way Facebook page and the Pacific Community's YouTube channel. Enjoy this performance from the Nassau Toka Dancers, a village in Fiji where the elderly are ensuring the younger generation learn the ancient traditional dances of their forefathers. Until next week, ale, ka kite ano mo demanda.
Worth watching. It's exciting and it's lively. Yeah, not very many. The wording, of course, means a lot to us in Fiji, but for those over here, it's just the actions that that is shown, and also the grace, that goes with it, the use of the hands, and these are things which I think captivate the imagination of people who watch it.